If rejection makes you want to give up, good. That means it matters. But here's the question. Do you want it enough to survive the no's? In this episode, I'll share the mindset shifts that kept me going when nothing else did. Because in this industry, resilience is not optional, it's survival. So I'd like to call this mindset the 3 P's. And they are pivoting, pausing, and pushing through. So the first one I'd like to discuss is pivoting. This takes me back to 2021 when I moved to Rome, and it was the second time of me living in Rome. And I had lived there prior to that in 2007 to 2012. And it's just my happy place. And so when I was living in LA and I had lived there for 8 years after grad school, I started to feel a little stagnant. And so I wanted to go back to my happy place where I felt the most creative in my life. And, it was 2020, the pandemic, everybody was rethinking all their choices. So I decided that I needed to shake it up a little bit and go back to my happy, creative space of the Eternal City, which that's my channel's namesake. And so this time, I did it the right way. I had my visa. I was going there to study Italian, and I was also studying for my MBA online. So it was a perfect situation. The idea was to get my visa for a certain amount of time. And then my immigration lawyer said, then we can change the status of my visa to a different visa when I'm there. And I could continue living there because I really felt like, and I still feel, that is my place where I was the most creative in my life. And I felt the most fed inspirationally. Well, it was still the pandemic in 2021, and it really didn't pan out the way what way I thought it would because of certain elements with the process being pushed back because of the pandemic. And so I had to pivot and make certain choices. At that point, I'd given everything up in LA. I did that to kind of make it harder to just go back to my comfort zone. And I decided, at that same time, my channel started growing just out of the blue. So I felt like, okay, it's important for me to start creating more content. And so it made sense at the time for me to pivot and move back home to New York. I'm originally from New York. And I had a project that I would shoot there. And so I made that decision to pivot. Now, it wasn't just, boom, New York. I considered going to Portugal. I did a lot of research, did a lot of soul searching to make that pivot happen. But I did it in a relatively short amount of time I took that decision. Now, another P is pausing. So recently, I think I just in the previous episode talked about getting feedback on one of my projects that I am developing. And rather than jumping in and, making the changes that I think need to be made, I paused. I'm going to let that sit there for a minute to really go back, so then I'm ruminating on it and I can go back to it with fresh eyes. So pausing is a really hopeful thing sometimes, rather than making rash decisions or taking too long. Sometimes you just need the universe to kind of send you the information that you need, to make a good decision. And then pushing through right now with my production, my new production for The Pact, I set up a challenge for myself that I set up for my students of producing their projects for $500. So I challenged myself to do the same because, how can I make them do that when, I'm not doing it? So it's really challenging, especially when you're used to bigger budgets. And there are a lot of challenges, and I just have to keep pushing through, keep going, because sometimes pushing through is what you need to do to make yourself be more resourceful. And that, in this case, pushing through is going to make me be more resourceful, because a lot of it is fear. It's like, well, what happens if I can't find locations for free, or I can't get people to work for free? There's all of these fears. And sometimes fear will paralyze you, and sometimes you just need to push through it and just see what happens. So those are the 3 Ps that I usually employ at different times, sometimes all 3, depending on the situation. But they're really helpful. And the process for each, it's always about doing it with making informed choices and finding the information. So sometimes you take more time, sometimes you don't take more time, and you just kind of, plowing through it, because sometimes you have all the information you need. So that is really like my 3 Ps of how I just keep going, and it makes me continue moving past all the challenges that filmmaking will definitely, put before you. Rejection hurts, but you're tougher. Write yourself a resilience mantra in the comments below and speak it into existence. And if you're putting together your dream team of creative warriors, hit that subscribe button and let's rise together. Until next time, stay locked.